Hello, scholars, and welcome to day 7 of the one and only Ivan. I hope that you guys are still enjoying the story as much as I am. Again, it's one of my very favorite books. So, today we are starting chapters 64 through 72 in our The One and Only Ivan packet. And our quick write today is this: how do you think animals are like humans? How do you think animals are unlike humans? Okay, so let's take 2 minutes and really think about what the question is asking us and answer thoughtfully. I'm gonna start my timer, see if I can do it in 2 minutes. All right, here we go. So I'm going to pause really fast. So I'm going to pause our timer too. This time it looks like we're just supposed to list things that were alike, so we don't need to write in a complete sentence, okay? So just list how they are alike. Seven seconds left. Awesome. Scholars, if you took that whole 2 minutes to really think about your answer, you should give yourself a pat on the back. You should be really proud of that, because sometimes it's hard to make ourselves think. So here's what I wrote. How are animals and humans alike? How are animals and humans different? I said alike. I actually was thinking a lot about our Bill Nye the Science Guy videos on mammals and amphibians and reptiles to see kind of, it depends, right? It depends on like what animal. Some animals are a lot more alike humans, and some animals are a lot different than humans. So for alike, I said some animals are mammals. Animals have babies. Humans have babies. They have feelings. Now, I don't know if all animals have feelings, but I know for sure in the one and only Ivan, Ivan is saying that he has a lot of feelings. Remember when Stella passed away, and he said that he wished he had a heart of ice. And elephants also have feelings, they were saying in the book. They have families. So some animals live by themselves, right? Like some animals are solitary, but most of the time they have families. And then some differences that I listed is that some animals are not mammals. Some are cold-blooded, right? Like amphibians and reptiles. We learned that from science this year. Some animals lay eggs. Humans don't lay eggs. Some have scales and feathers. Humans don't have scales or feathers. And humans are smarter than all other animals. You can say, oh, but my dog is so smart, Mrs. Halverson. Well, even the smartest dog isn't as smart as a human. So I said that that was one difference. And I'm sure your dog is very smart. Okay, so that was our quick write. Today we're going to talk about something that's called chronological order. So chronological order means what came first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. We could go on forever. Or what happens first, next, later, a little after that. So it's kind of like the timeline of the story. So if we were to take or look at our day, and we're going to pretend that it's a normal day at Nova and that we're back at school. How would we rate these? Would we eat lunch first before arriving at school? And in third grade, we always take our spelling test in the morning. So that's a hint. Okay. So we would probably number them like this. So first you arrive at school. So that would be a 1 there. Then you would take the spelling test, 2 here. After that, you would eat lunch. We'd put a 3 here. And then you went home, 4. And then 5, went to bed would be the last thing that you do during your day. Okay. So today we're going to do some vocabulary review. So we've learned so many new vocabulary words in this book that sometimes it's a great idea to go back. So our first word says intently. What word? Intently. Intently is an adverb and it means attentively. So if you were intently listening to me right now, you would be like this. You're paying really good attention, maybe sitting at rapt attention. What's the word? Intently. Good. Our second word is contemplating. What word? Contemplating is a verb. It means thinking. What's the word? Contemplating. Our third word is mesmerized. What word? Mesmerized. Mesmerized is an adjective, which means enthralled. So remember, when you're mesmerized by something, it's almost like you can't take your eyes off it. So I know that there is a tree in my yard right now, because it's that time of year, that is just so red, and I could just look at it for hours and just be mesmerized. What's the word? Mesmerized. Our next word is addled. What word? Addled. Addled is an adjective, which means muddled and confused. What's the word? Addled. Very good. Okay, our next words, our first word on this page is shrouded. What word? Shrouded means to be covered. What's the word? Shrouded. Our next word is forage, which is a verb. That means to hunt and search. What's the word? Forage. Our next word is venture. What's the word? Venture is a verb. It means to travel from place to place. And our last word here is amplify. What's the word? Amplify means to make louder. All right, so here are our new words for this chapter today. So our first new word is sullen. What's the word? Sullen. Sullen is an adjective that means sulky and glum. What's the word? Sullen. Our next word is thrilled. What word? Thrilled. Thrilled is an adjective meaning happy and excited. What's the word? Thrilled. Our next word is trudges. What word? Trudges is a verb that means to walk slowly and heavily. So if you're pretending like you're walking through mud or like a lot of snow, you're probably trudging. What's the word? Trudge. Our last word today is gleaming. What word? Gleaming is an adjective or a verb that means shiny. What's the word? Gleaming. Now let's go through all these words the fast way, just so we know how to read them when we come up. When we come up to them. So here we go. First word is intently. What word? Number 2 is contemplating. What word? Number 3 is mesmerized. What word? Number 4 is addled. What word? Next one is shrouded. What word? Then forage. What word? Venture. What word? Amplify. What word? Sullen. What word? Thrilled. What word? Trudges. What word? Gleaming. What word? Good. All right, Mrs. Halverson's going to do quite a bit of reading today, and then you're going to do about 7 pages on your own. So please join me. So you are reading along. That's the expectation, that you are reading along with Mrs. Halverson. So Mrs. Halverson is starting on page 153. Rather, 154. Nope, 138. I'm reading to 153. Mrs. Halverson. Okay, 138 is punishment. Find yourself on 138. If you need more time to find that page number, pause your device and join me when you find it. Here we go. The title is Punishment. What's the title? Punishment. I soon learned that humans can screech even louder than monkeys. After that, I was never allowed in the kitchen. Page 139, Babies. Back in those days, the Big Top Mall was smaller. It had a pony ride, a wooden train that bustled around the parking lot, a few bedraggled parrots, and a surly spider monkey. But when Matt brought me, a baby gorilla dressed in a crisp tuxedo, to the mall, everything changed. People came from far and wide to have their pictures taken with me. They brought me blocks and a toy guitar. They held me in their laps. Once I even held a baby in mine. She was small and slippery. Bubbles flowed from her lips. She squeezed my fingers. Her rear was puffy with padding. Her legs bowed like bent twigs. Simile. I made a face. She made a face. I grunted. She grunted. I was so afraid she would fall that I squeezed her tightly and her mother yanked her away. I wonder if my mother ever worried about dropping us. We always held on, but that's easier to do when your mother is furry. Human babies are an ugly lot, but their eyes are like our babies' eyes. Too big for their faces and for the world. Page 141, Beds. One day, after many weeks of loud talking, Helen packed a bag and slammed the front door and never came back. I don't know why. I never know the why of humans. That night, I slept with Mac in his bed. My old nests were woven of leaves and sticks and shaped like his bathtub, cool green cocoons. Mac's bed, like mine, was flat, hot, without sticks or stars. Still, he made a sleeping sound like the rumble of my father used to make when all was well, a sound from deep inside his belly. What is he talking about? Snoring, that's right. My place. Mac grew sullen. I grew bigger. I became what I was meant to be. Too large for chairs, too strong for hugs, too big for human life. I tried to stay calm, to move with dignity. I did my best to eat daintily, but human ways are hard to learn, especially when you're not a human. When I saw my new domain, I was thrilled. And who wouldn't have been? It had no furniture to break, no glasses to smash, no toilets to drop Mac's keys into. It even had a tire swing. I was so relieved to have my own place. Somehow I didn't realize I'd be here quite so long. Now I drink Pepsi, eat old apples, watch reruns on TV. But many days I forget what I am supposed to be. Am I a human? Am I a gorilla? Humans have so many words, more than they truly need. Still, they have no name for what I am. There's this tire swing. He was excited about that when he got it. Let's keep reading. 9,876 days. Ruby's finally asleep. I watch her chest rise and fall. Bob, too, is snoring. But my mind is still racing. For perhaps the first time ever, I've been remembering. It's an odd story to remember. I have to admit, my story has a strange shape, a stunted beginning, an endless middle. I count all the days I've lived with humans. Gorillas count as well as anyone, although it's not a particularly useful skill to have in the wild. I've forgotten so many things, and yet I always know precisely how many days I've been in my domain. I take one of the magic markers Julia gave me. I make an X, a small one, on my painted jungle wall. I make more X's and more. I make an X for every day of my life with humans. My marks look like this. The rest of the night, I mark the days, and when I'm done, my wall looks like this. And so on until there are 9,876 X's marching across my wall like a parade of ugly insects. 147, a visit. It's almost morning when I hear steps. It's Mac. He has a sharp smell. He weaves as he walks. He stands next to my domain. His eyes are red. He is staring out the window at the empty parking lot. Ivan, my man, he mumbles. Ivan. He presses his forehead against the glass. We've been through a lot, you and me. A New Beginning, page 148. We don't see Mac for 2 days. When he returns, he doesn't talk about Stella. Mac says he is anxious to teach Ruby some tricks. He says the billboard is bringing in more visitors. He says it is time for a new beginning. All afternoon and into the evening, Mac works with Ruby. Ruby's feet are looped with rope so that she cannot run. A heavy chain hangs off her neck. Mac shows her Stella's ball, her pedestal, her stool. He introduces her to Snickers. When Ruby obeys Mac, he gives her a cube of sugar or a bit of dried apple. When he doesn't, he yells and kicks at the sawdust. When George and Julia arrive, Mac is still training Ruby. Julia sits on a bench and watches them. She draws a little, but mostly she keeps her eyes on Ruby. Bob watches too. He's hiding in the corner of my domain under knot tag. It's raining outside, and Bob does not like damp feet. Ruby trudges behind Mac, her head drooping. Endlessly, they circle the ring. Sometimes Mac slaps her flank with his hand. Suddenly, Ruby jerks to a stop. Mac pulls the chain hard, but Ruby refuses to move. Come on, Ruby, Mac is almost pleading. What's your problem? She's exhausted, I say to myself. That's the problem. Mac groans. Idiot elephant. Idiot human, Bob mutters. Walk, Ruby, I say, although I know she's too far away to hear me. Do what he says. Walk, Mac commands. Now! Ruby doesn't walk. She plops her rump on the sawdust floor. I think maybe she's tired, Julia says. Mac wipes his forehead with the back of his arm. Yeah, I know, we're all tired. He pushes Ruby with the heel of his boot. She ignores him. George looks over from the food court where he is wiping off tables. Mac, he yells, maybe you should call it a day. I'll close up. Mac yanks on Ruby's chain. She's as anchored as a tree trunk. Simile. Ruby is a tree trunk. As anchored as one. He pulls harder and falls to his knees. That does it, Mac says. He brushes sawdust off his jeans. I'm through playing around. Mac stomps off to his office. When he returns, he is carrying a long stick. The gleaming hook on its end is almost beautiful, like a sliver of moon. It's a claw stick. Mac pokes Ruby with a sharp point. Not hard, just a touch. I can tell he wants her to see how much it can hurt. I growl low in my throat. Ruby doesn't budge. She is a gray, unmoving boulder. Metaphor. She closes her eyes, and for a moment I wonder if she might have fallen asleep. I'm warning you, Max says. He breathes out. He stares at the ceiling. Ruby makes a huffing sound. Fine, Max says. You want to play it that way? He draws back the claw stick. No, Julia cries. I'm not going to hurt her, Max says. I just want to get her attention. Bob snarls. Max swings. The hook slices the air just a few inches above Ruby's head. See why you don't want to mess with me, Max says. He draws back the claw stick again. Now move. Ruby jerks her head, flinging her trunk toward Mac. She makes a noise that sends the sawdust scattering. It makes my glass shiver. It is the most beautiful mad I have ever heard. Read that sentence again because I struggled through it. It's the most beautiful mad I have ever heard. That's beautiful. Ruby's trunk slaps into Mac. I don't see exactly where she strikes him, somewhere below his stomach, I think. And I know he must be uncomfortable because Mac drops the claw stick and falls down to the ground and curls up into a ball and howls like a baby. Direct hit, Bob says. All right, scholars, so your job now is to finish reading pages 154 through 160. Write that down. You might want to write that down so you don't forget. 154 through 160. Okay. Let's shrink me down again. All right, so here's your homework for today. You're going to complete or finish reading pages 154 through 160. Let's change that. Mrs. Halverson already read page 153. So your job is to read 154 through 160. Complete the pages for chapters 64 through 72. Mrs. Halverson. 2 mistakes in one. That's okay. We all make mistakes. 64 through 72. Finish those pages in your packet and then upload pictures. Oopsies. Upload pictures of your work into our Google Classroom. All right, friends, so happy reading. Remember, number 4 is sequencing, so talking about that chronological order. So ask yourselves what happened first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Okay, so that's probably the trickiest part in the packet today. If you're having trouble with that, come see me at my office hours. All right, happy reading, friends. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.